Welcome to Queenstown, in the west coast of Tasmania. We're in the old train station. There's a bit of a boiler for you. Train station, and no trains running today. Cafe is open. I've just had a coffee to kick off the walk, and we'll be going back there for some Valhalla ice cream. It's the road from the station. We have the Empire Hotel. Let's walk up and around that. Quite an impressive facade. There was a lot of money in Queenstown once. Less so nowadays. Directly across the road from the Empire is the Mount Lyell Hotel, and I'm sure you can see the Green Hotel up there with the James Bogue sign on it. Go up and see what that pub's called. These sorts of verandas along the outside of shops used to be far more common back in the old days. Quite handy to have them here, because when it rains here, it rains a lot. Hotel, no less the historic Hunters Hotel. Most places around Tassie now, there's a defibrillator in case anyone has a heart attack in the street. It's the Railway Express General Store. The railway plays a pretty big part in Queenstown. Originally linked up to Burnie on the northwest coast. It's always tell about the past glories of a place by the size of their post office. This one's been built in the grand style, the clock tower and all. Quite impressive. Diagonally opposite the post office is what used to be another hotel, but isn't anymore. Some pleasant mural there along the wall. Of course, where else would you have a mural? And like most townships around this wide brown land, the banks have basically abandoned the place. I can tell from the architecture that this used to be a bank. And as we've seen with townships across the trips we've been on, the 1418 and then of course the Second World War, very important markers. And you can see that once upon a time it was big enough to have a separate hall for the hospital for recreational purposes. And just up from the hallway we have the West Coast District Hospital. St Joseph's Catholic Church up there. Around, you can see the edge of town. Hits the hills and the bush is quite close. Nice rock outcropping over there. I guess these are the things you get used to when you live here, that stand out when you don't. Shop of the hospital, reasonably new looking, quite efficient I would imagine. There's quite a number of older miners' cottages about, some in better repair than others. Some sort of religious establishment, no longer in use by the look of it. But if you know better, let me know in the comments. Reasonably simple stained glass, so probably more of your drier sort of Protestant church, I would imagine. I'm guessing this used to be the high school. Well and truly boarded up and shut down now. But it's like a corridor up there on the first floor. But just sitting rotting. Bit of a shame really. As close as we can there, it says stone was laid on the 2nd of March 1938 by the Attorney General and Minister for Education, the Honourable E.G. Ogilvie. So I'm guessing it's the old high school. Those rounded entryways have that Art Deco-ish feel about them, so 38 would make sense. Queenstown Community Garden, I'm guessing. Well, let's have a bit of a squeeze. Some calendula brightening up the morning. Faux sunflowers, but they brighten the place up. Lots of starts and cuttings in there. Guess they're related to raspberries and blackberries somehow. Possibly gooseberries, who's to know? I think so from the look of them, or currants. But oddly enough, lemon tree as well. Raised beds. Early signs of spring with the stone fruit flowering. And some rhubarb there as well. The ever popular compost in a community garden. Generates a lot, is good for the soil. Some rosemary, small patch of sage, quite a bush of lavender. Silver beet and parsley, growing wild. A quick pan of the garden for everyone. Quite a nice size. Good way to build community. Interesting looking building over there. Not allowed to park for longer than 8 hours in one spot. This looks like an interesting test case for some urban archaeologists. Clearly there was a building there. Just the piers left. Be interesting to see. As I say, it was an interesting building. And the stone, so I'm guessing it's to do with some sort of chapel or kirk or something. There's not a lot of decoration. But the building is now used by the Unconformity. The Unconformity is an arts organisation. It delivers a range of cultural programs, including a biennial arts festival. Nicely maintained miners' cottages. That's an old satellite dish. I haven't seen one of those since the 80s. Don't know if it still works, but it does seem to be connected. So, talking to the world. And that's why it's at the back of the local radio station. And date this building and this one across the road to about the 90s, when we had a bit of a recession and money was splashed about because the electorates in Tasmania are critical to winning the federal election. And there's something going on in there as well, a new park I think by the look of it. You see over the top there a rotunda. Grew up with strange suggestions that these people were running the world, but who's to know? They're certainly still meeting here and the place is well maintained. No, not the library, the local RSL club. That's Returned Servicemen's League. Your Rising Sun hat badge. And confirming that we are outside an RSL, there's an artillery piece. I'm not sure what make or model it is. Looks to be 105mm. The caliber's 105mm. Maybe a little bit smaller, I'm not sure. If you know the model and the make and the country it was served under, drop a comment. More well-maintained miners' cottages. There is some pleasant places here in Queenie. If we look up out of town, you can see the weather's quite misty and there's a light rain on its way in. So we'll keep moving. It's back to the railway station, but I think we might keep heading to town. And of course for the gamblers, there's yet another hotel. And with all mining towns, there'll be a memorial to a disaster. This is the North Lyell Disaster Memorial Park. Back in 1912 on the 12th of October and 42 men were lost. So yeah, quite a solemn spot. Around the park are these individual markers for each person who passed away. You can see quite how close the bush is to the edge of town. Reminds me very much of Lithgow, the old part of Lithgow. The houses were built right up against the hills and then the buildings stopped. Had some rain this week. I'm sure you can hear the water. Quite a bit of flow about the creek at the moment. Not overly deep, but quite swift. And there's a view from the side. We have these tracks leading that way, so let's follow. There had to be an Anglican one somewhere. And there she be. We're 250 metres or 0.25 of a kilometre from somewhere at the end of these tracks. So that's what this is as we zoom out. I suspect they're the ones that run on the Queenstown railway that goes out to Strawn. And those are the carriages that go on that run. We'll have more on that when we get back to the railway station. As I said, I'll be going in for some of that later. This is back at that green dissected engine and moving into the station. There's the engine that takes those carriages on the train trip out to Strawn. It's deserted today pretty much, but the cafe is open and I can confirm the coffee is good, as are the sweet treats and even the hot meat pies. Facilities up the end there, just past the cafe sign. As ever in Tassie, spotlessly clean. And there's a tip for idiots that stay off the line. Going to go across the road to the Empire for a caffeine-based beverage. No, I'm not, because they're not open yet. So we'll just go back to the railway station and have another coffee there. Back at the old boiler, yet again, had a bit of food and we're off. We went up that way before lunch, so now we're going to head that way. Old turntable for turning engines around. And across the road from the Empire, outside the Mount Lyell Hotel, is your traditional small town war memorial. As ever, First World War memorial. It's commemorating the war 1419, because that was when a lot of people came back. Lest we forget, of course. Now this one was opened by General Sir W.R. Birdwood. And Birdwood was a fairly important general for the Australians. All these things, other wars are commemorated. There's the Boer, Malaysian and so on. Korean, now when I say commemorated, I don't mean celebrated, but the memory of those that have fallen are remembered. And lastly, on the fourth side, the Vietnam War. As we head up the road here, that building there with the strange camouflage patterns on the side so it can't be seen at sea is part of the council, and the museum, the library's just around the corner. For our purposes, we're going for a walk up the Spine Cop. Never seen it spelled with a difference. And the Battle of Spine Cop was fought during the Second Boer War, I believe. 20,000 odd Imperial troops against 8,000 Boers. The Boers were from the Orange Free State and perhaps the Republic of South Africa, I can't recall now. But it was a fairly important battle, and clearly, if we can have a look out, there must have been some local involvement. And the hill's about to get steep, as one would expect for a cop. We're heading up there and around to the left, getting steeper. And steeper again. That's a good sign. That, however, is a less than good sign. Back onto the steep bit. See it down there, but that gravelly area, that's a football paddock. Now that's always good to see. Okay, so, possibility of snakes, and I don't have a compression bandage with me, so I'm not actually prepared to risk my life for that sort of a view. But we've got some views from here in the car park, so I'll show you those. So here are the views from the car park. Really quite impressive with the clouds coming down over the hills. I'll be back when I have a compression bandage.